Namaste. This is Yoga Therapy Podcast, and I'm your host, Shira Cohen, yoga teacher, yoga therapist, and Ayurvedic wellness educator. In these conversations with experts in the field of yoga therapy, you'll find out what it is and how it can help you and your loved ones to reclaim well-being. We'll touch on physical as well as mental health, physiology, emotions, women's health, spiritual well-being, goddesses, and self-development in the fullest sense. Listening to another story can change ours, so thank you for showing up, and let's begin this journey together. Hello everyone, so today we're joined by Alina again, Alina Calinescu. So I'm really happy you're here. She just came back from Romania where she saw her family for a few weeks. And we're talking today about yoga therapy and the quality of yoga therapy trainings that are out there. This whole conversation has come from a post that I posted in a yoga therapy Facebook group about some yoga teacher that I had met in the community center where I work. And she introduced herself as a yoga therapist. And I was like, oh, really? I was excited to meet another yoga therapist so close. And I said, where did you do your training? And she was like, oh, well, I just started yoga during COVID time. And then I became a yoga teacher. And then I became a yoga therapist. And I felt sick. I felt like I was going to vomit because that just shocked me. You know, I've been practicing yoga for 32 years and I've been teaching for 14, and I even now question if I'm good enough to be a yoga therapist. And then there's people who just come in and become yoga therapists off the street because it sounds like a great career. So Alina reached out because I wrote this and I had mentioned the name of the school, and I got a lot of stick from this. And I asked Alina, why the hell can we not speak about the school? And she told me it's a lawsuit kind of factor that makes people shut their mouths, or that I'm not allowed to speak about certain people, which I think is disgusting, because people should be called out when they do things that are low quality and just terrible. Not only for other yoga therapists, but for the clients. You come to a yoga therapist who has no background in yoga. How the hell are they going to therapy in yoga if they don't even know what yoga is? You know, so that was my big frustration. And thank you, Alina, for coming to save me, to have a good conversation about this and explain the logistics behind why people were so angry with me for this.
You're welcome. I'm just going to say that one of my takeaways, I have been practicing yoga, I'm going to say since 2008, because in Romania, yoga was not existent back then. And until I arrived in Canada, I wasn't exposed to it. But I practiced many years before I even became a teacher. And I'm going to reiterate that back in that day, it's going to sound like a very old lady. Back in that day, I really enjoyed the requirements to be accepted in a program. It was not swipe your card and get into a program and give me $300 and get into a yoga training program. And while I appreciate that that's affordable for people, to what extent is that qualifying you to be confident in the feedback and support system that you have after the course? So going back to the requirements, I actually needed to submit a letter from my yoga teacher that I have been practicing under his guidance for a minimum of 1 year.
Oh, wow. And I had to do 3 years.
Yeah.
3 years.
And he considers that I am ready physically, mentally, and emotionally to be in long training days and to sustain the learning process, to be absorbing the information and to be able to take it with me. Okay. I don't remember if it was a year or two. That's like my thing, but what does that mean? Regular practice. That means more than once a week that person was seeing you and they would see your progress. It wasn't easy to get a recommendation letter. That you would have to be very serious about the practice, because hey, we are ethical people, and you can't ask your best friend to say that, give me a reference letter. That happens nowadays too.
Yeah, but I mean, you also had to have a good rapport with the teacher. It's not just you had to know them.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely.
There's a
Yeah,
relationship that's built up, and I think that's one part of the issue that people keep overlooking. We are living in a society that is in such a rush to go who knows where. We don't even know where we're heading, and we're all on this treadmill, running, 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 trying to get things and get things from people without having any relationship. And when you look at yoga and when you look at Ayurveda, which is the basis of yoga therapy, it is all about relationship. And the reason you are a therapist, I mean, not just relationship, human relationship, but your mental relationship to your body relationship, the relationship between body, mind, and the world. You know, this is relationship. If we're not even having relationships, how the hell are we able to be a therapy facilitator? You
so
know?
you can only take somebody to a place that you have been to.
Exactly.
In other words, you have to do your own work.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to go out and practice. I lovingly say about every teacher that finishes my course, and believe me that I taught online and I know how that is. And I do have amazing teachers that have been taught online because I can see a lot, and I do yoga therapy sessions online, and I get people to have amazing results if they put the work in, because it's not me, it's them putting the work. And I am just a authentic human that is there to motivate them that change is possible and healing is possible. But the thing is, if I haven't been there and I haven't done my work and I haven't done my daily practice and I haven't been practicing on family and friends, give myself permission to suck for a little bit and teach to people that probably know better than me in the beginning, and they have been yogis and they are non-judgmental yogis and they are there to support my journey, then if I don't go through those motions and I want to be like an overnight sensation, is Instagram, TV and TikTok and Facebook sensation, and I'm going to teach their things that I have no idea because I did not really feel them in my body, then you know, where are we going with this? And, you know, when I'm hearing from forums, questions is a lot of what somebody that I can't recall the name, and I apologize for that, said this is crowdsourcing. So you're asking questions about things you haven't been taught, you didn't practice, and you want to teach, such as a question about, should I teach Kapalabhati pranayama to somebody that has a diastasis and a small hernia in her belly button? Yeah. So that's not on your lane.
It's a very strong practice of breathing where you use the belly muscles. So obviously you don't want to do that. And this is what me and Alina are talking about. We were just talking before we started recording that there is such a lack of understanding of the body alone, you know, and yoga, just to be a yoga teacher, to do the 200 hours, you don't understand anything about the body, even though you have 25 hours of anatomy, that's nothing, you know. And then to teach people who have things like a hernia, which is serious, you cannot just crowdsource from internet. You cannot learn just from a few books, a few hours. And I was telling Alina before, I've been offered a job to be a yoga teacher for yoga teachers, to teach people to become yoga teachers within 36 hours online. I refused, and I wanted to report that school, and then the school took down their program, so I couldn't do it. You know, this kind of thing, it's just growing very quick because everyone's in a hurry to be a career in whatever they love. I understand you love yoga and you want to be a yoga teacher or a yoga therapist, but then go out and find a quality program, pay the money, take the time, go deeper, because you're not only damaging yourself and the profession, also the people who come to you.
I think that many people are not necessarily understanding or being taught what's their scope of practice. Yes. What can I teach safely to what kind of populations. When I teach a 200-hour yoga teacher training, that is my first question to my students. What is your vision? Who would you like to teach this to?
Mm-hmm.
In what setting? What age group? Because I'm hearing even requirements. For instance, I have a project in my 200-hour yoga teacher training to design a class for seniors. And my teacher, and I'm getting a little ticked by that labeling, okay? Because we don't modify for an age. We modify for range of motion, for restriction, for injury. And I tell people, here's the deal. How would you teach to this class? I have a 92-year-old able woman that can do what the 20-something-year-old is doing next to her, and an 83-year-old in another corner. And I have younger people that don't have the same range of motion that they have because of their office work, not their fault, because of their office work on all kind of other things, right? So even the education is, what do you teach? How do you teach people? Okay, so you see me having white hair, and all of a sudden I am labeled that I'm a senior, and you're gonna have to teach me something that is super easy. Well, we want to teach people strength and ease, and the strength is the base of the healthy aging, right? So I'm seeing these questions that is like, okay, my teacher, Judith Hanson-Laster, that I have an amazing love and respect for her. Every time when she hears somebody introducing themselves teaching yoga for seniors, like, can you define for me a senior, please? What is a senior? She's in her 70s, and she's one of the most vibrant, funny, and amazing yoga teachers that I know. And I was like, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. Thank you very much for those things. So at what point do we understand that who are we teaching to is not somebody that can be put on a shelf and in a box, and it's about ability, teaching to the level of that student and their ability to follow.
Okay, but look, this is you speaking, asking your students, but you are an integral teacher. You have practiced for a long time before you even felt that you would dare to teach and then become a therapist. And then you have people who teach schools who don't know anything about yoga, and they don't have the integrity, because I saw it in India. I saw schools. I went to Rishikesh every year for years, and we had 6 teachers in all of Rishikesh. There was Usha Devi, Pankaj Sharma, Kamal, Shivrindra, and then 2 others, Rudra, and one more. I can't remember his name, but that was it. And I came back 3-4 years later, and all of a sudden there was 50 schools. And then the next year there was 100 schools, and they are all registered by. Mm-hmm. So
I'm not going to talk ill about any organization, but at the end of the day, they make money from all the schools that are registering with them. And there was a survey a longer time ago, and based on my experience as a teacher trainer, as I like to know, I wish that the requirement for a main teacher would not be to have 1,000 hours or 1,500 hours of teaching experience, would be more like around 5,000 hours of teaching experience, because that teaching experience is being funneled and channeled into the trainees differently. I was a teacher trainer with 1,000 hours experience because that was the norm, and I thought that, hey, I can do that. I want to say right now with you publicly that I was a baby, and I thoroughly apologize for everyone that I taught in a teacher training when I had 1,000 hours experience, because I didn't know any better. And I thought that that's the norm. And if that's the norm and I can conform with that norm, so it is 1,000 hours and 2 years of experience. 2 years is not a lot, right? I did have 5 years prior to that, or 3 years prior to that, teaching classes and teaching mindfulness. Mm-hmm. However, I don't think that is a great norm. But now in this consumerist, people don't even know how to choose a course. and how to ask the questions
Yeah.
and how to ask the right questions. And I coach often people what questions to ask when you're ready to sign up for a yoga teacher training, and how do you choose a lineage? How do you choose a trainer that has good background, good experience, ability to teach you things?
Yeah.
I'm teaching online, and for me, teaching online is a privilege because I can reach to people that cannot come physically to be here and can save money. But how do I teach online? And I took courses that are taught really well online, and I took courses that were taught like not so well online. So for me, it's a non-negotiable. You have your camera on. If you can't make it to the class in the morning, you will have to make up class for that. If you're not part of the conversations, you may be prompted to be part of the conversation, so we can understand that you are with us, you're understanding the concepts, even though, in the beginning, a lot of people find, let's say, anatomy or philosophy boring because they can't wrap their mind around it. But how do we make that accessible, and how do we make that chop it down so it's being understood? I call the first days of teaching in a yoga course chopping vegetables like for a cooking show. Then you have all kinds of little bowls of vegetables. Then you get to play with them and be creative and cook something that appeals to you. But how do we prompt the students to choose a good course? Exactly. And how much education is enough? I'm going to go there right now because I know that this is quite
can we start with the questions? What are good questions for people looking for a course? Because I think that's the first step, and then we can go into what's important in a course if it's online.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what is important for me is getting to know. I'm gonna share my experience. Okay, how did I choose my course? Back when I took my $200 yoga teacher training, the courses were in person. Okay, so I went on the internet. And I started to research courses, and I kid you not, I had 83 courses.
Oh, I think you told me.
83, okay? Then I narrowed it down to a lineage and a style that was close to, that I could see myself teaching in.
And how did you know that? That was because you already had experience.
That was because I did have experience taking classes, and I had experience researching. There was still YouTube there and other things to just look at some styles that I wasn't familiar with and read books about those and research. My research lasted I'm going to say over a year of researching. And then I would just go and see, can I maybe find graduates of this school to talk to them and to ask them questions? And I contacted them through Yoga Alliance, maybe if they were registered with Yoga Alliance, or I would ask the school, is there any way that you can connect me with a graduate of the school? And I would ask the questions like, what did you like most about your program? And what is it that it didn't sit well with you? And how would you make this program better, for instance? Okay.
Oh, wow.
Then I narrowed it down to 3 programs, and one was, for instance, in Calgary. I live in London, Ontario, close to Toronto in Canada. One was in Calgary, that's on the opposite coast, but I had a friend there that I was able to offer me accommodations and food kind of thing. And I was like, okay, but I'll clean up your house so we can exchange services. And I would have only to pay for the flight to get there. And then I had one in close to in Massachusetts. I had a school that was kind of down my alley, and I found one that was closer to me, driving distance, but it's only one that was my choice that was in the driving distance, right? So then I decided to ask the main teachers to talk to me, to hear their voice, because I'm a voice person. And if I can't connect with your voice, I'm going to disconnect from your voice. I'm going to go places and I'm not going to be able to learn anything. Okay.
Yeah.
So I spoke to the first two that were on my list. I could not connect with the voice of the person in Calgary, was not down my alley of learning. And the person that was close to me was, we had an immediate connection. We both started in the
Oh,
gym. We both started in a way that we had many, many similarities. And at that point, I wasn't working. And I also asked if there are any opportunities for energy exchange because it's a big financial stretch for me. And my mentor said to me, and I thought he was totally bonkers, register and the money will come.
oh,
Okay.
you told me in the last
Yeah.
podcast.
So
Yeah,
if you set the intention,
it'll
it's not
come.
that the universe is going to shower you with a unexpected lottery winning. You're going to find, you're going to have your acuity prompting you towards
Find,
jobs that
yeah.
you may ignore otherwise because you need the income to pay for your education, right? So anyway, I narrowed down from 80 something. I don't remember how many, but I still have that spreadsheet somewhere. And I narrowed it down from 80 something to 3.
Okay.
I'm not saying do that. If you do have
No,
somebody that you're practicing with,
yeah.
and that person is an inspiration for you, or your friends study with that person, and your friends can tell you, yeah, that's a good choice. But don't choose someone because you're friends with them, because they might be friends with you as a
or because
friend.
it's convenient, you know, all these choices.
Yeah.
Base it
So
on real learning. Not like Alina just said, do you connect with the voice? Is voice important to you? Is the style important to you?
And I actually tell them, like, what's the size of the group that you study the best? Because some schools are teaching in like 5, 6, 6. Right now I have 3 people in my advanced yoga teacher training group. That is as close as you can get to a mentoring.
Yes.
And you're paying for like a group education.
Yeah.
And that is like, yeah, so that's like the size of group. We bring people in for other modules, but I'm never going beyond 7 people. Wow. So that's the size of the group that people are studying, right? Or you can be online. Like I was online with a school that was teaching a program that is part of a yoga therapy program, and they were teaching online, and there were 60 something people in the group. So do you want to be in that size of a group, or do you want to be on the size of the group?
And if you want to be in a size of 60 people, ask yourself, why do you want to be in a group of 60 people? Because how much attention are you getting? Not very much. And if you don't want the attention, you should be asking yourself why. Because if you don't want that attention, that means you don't want any criticism. You don't want to look at where you could improve, you know, and that's just as important as the learning experience. And getting good knowledge and education from a teacher who really cares about the yoga. Because another thing I think, even before all this, is if the teacher isn't of quality, if they are offering things so easily and they prefer even that their students have never done yoga, which a lot of schools do prefer, what does that say about the teacher? And how is that going to inculcate the knowledge of yoga into you? I don't understand. So you should be asking yourself these questions to begin with, even.
I just have had I just kickstarted my advanced yoga teacher training course that has a therapeutic focus, and the first course that we go through is yin yoga, the second is yoga nidra, and of course we have restorative yoga, a lot of anatomy and cueing and trauma sensitive yoga. So anyway, when we introduced each other, there was this girl that comes from a different lineage, but she already took a course, because I don't have people signing up to my course if they did not take any course with me. It's like, my recommendation is you take a course with me first. And if you resonate with the way I teach and you resonate with the way I speak, then you feel free to sign up for my course. I don't ask you to swipe your card, to give me your money, and maybe you like it, maybe you don't, but now that you paid, you really need to go through it because you don't want to lose your money, right? And she said to me, I was not impressed with my 200-hour yoga teacher training. We spent about 30 hours doing Thai massage, and I have no intention of ever doing Thai massage. It's like 30 hours. That's a long time that you can spend on developing interoception, proprioception, developing cues, developing cues that are not, because I hear students teaching from other lineages sometimes, and they call out postures. They don't even know how to teach body part and position and breathing cues. And they are kind of not understanding that that is not teaching to call out postures, right?
That really sounds great.
Like seriously, I was just responding yesterday to somebody that was not crowdsourcing, was actually asking a really great question on a yoga teacher forum on social media, and was asking, hey, I have the opportunity to work with somebody that is visually impaired. What would you recommend? And I was like, that's a great question. I would recommend that you totally and completely eliminate the names of the postures, and you learn how to give really amazing cues, body part position, because they have a great proprioception, interoception.
Yes.
If they function in life on their own. Be okay if they have a service animal that comes with them, and be ready to accommodate that too and ask that question. And here's the deal. Here's how I practice. I'm not saying this is a good thing. I practice with a good friend, and I asked her to wear a blindfold and follow my cues. And I adjusted my cues based on what I figured out that she was understanding. And then I put that in my 200-hour course in person. Okay, wow. So everybody not blindfolded, you would just like face the wall, and the class would be behind you. And you would have to give the cues without doing and without watching. And then you would turn around, and that would be funny sometimes, because people would have to forget that they know the postures, and they would have to only do what they heard being said, right? So it was funny in the beginning, but it was developing such a great interoception and proprioception, both for the student and for the teacher. Like, what are my words meaning for this person, right? So is your yoga teacher training giving you the exercise? We've done that online too, not only in person. Okay, so you have to turn around away from the camera and teach the people on camera, and we could do those things, but you can only do those things in a live online environment with the cameras on and with full participation on, not kind of like multitasking. Honestly, we did have somebody in the course, and we reimbursed her because it was like there was no connection.
Yeah.
And she was cooking, she was eating. Other people would look at that as like, should I do that? Is that okay? I was like, okay.
Wow.
I was like, this is really not working for us, because I can't be the best teacher you deserve. And I can't be the best teacher everybody else deserves when there is a distraction happening.
And it's disrespectful.
In somebody, yeah. And I had a course that I respect this course like so much. In the beginning, it was said, you have to have your camera on. You cannot eat on camera. Have tea or water, that's totally cool. If you go to the bathroom, you don't have to say, I'm going to the bathroom. Just come back in a reasonable kind of time from there. And if you can be in the course, let's talk about it. How do we ensure that you made up for that and there's quality control? I have students that miss time. How do they make up time? For me, becomes a lot more work, because I have to ensure that they have understood the concept, and I'm not going to sign my name on a certificate just because somebody paid me.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to say that there's like a lot of ethical and moral, there are a lot of ethical and moral considerations. Like, if I would have a student that would be constantly with the camera off, I don't know what is that student doing. I don't know how is that student participating. Are those contact hours for me? Am I in agreement with, for instance, the concept that an entire course can be taught with pre-recorded segments? No, I'm not. I'm just thinking that I personally, if I'm looking at a course, if I'm drawn in right away, I am very, very, very attentive. However, my attention span starts like tapering down in an hour and a half kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And if I have to do that for longer, I'm probably going to choose to have another activity in the background, which takes me away from the course because I tell people, you think you're multitasking, but if you have a pot on the stove and the laundry going on, the laundry goes on its own while you look at the stove. And if you go to the laundry and the pot of soup boils over, you didn't tend to the soup, right? So that's the same thing with multitasking. So
Yeah.
how
You can
do
only
we
do
keep
one
our
thing at
students
once.
engaged,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
to what extent do we do the quality control and the practicum? As I was mentioning before we started to record, I was approached recently personally by somebody that I know personally was interested in my course, but during the pandemic took another course. I'm going to guess probably because it was very cheap and it was on their own timeline and without quality control, because now she approached me for shadowing. Okay, so how do you shadow a yoga teacher? You can't unless you have insurance, and you can't have insurance because you don't have a certificate. So now you're in the predicament that you're gonna have to pay somebody for maybe one-on-one
Yeah.
education for you to finish the course. I have also been in contact with people that didn't have any practice teaching during their course, or the practice teaching was done in their very last module and they didn't have time to receive feedback, immediate feedback on how to work on their teaching so that they can ensure that they have a really good education and good grasp and confidence in teaching. And one of those people took again a 200-hour yoga teacher training with me so they can learn how to teach, because they learn everything about emotions and everything about what to eat. I'm just not even considering that that's on the lane of the 200-hour yoga teacher.
Yoga, yeah. What does that have to do with yoga? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there is, I like to say, and I counsel people on, again, asking the main teacher, hearing their voice, asking their main teacher questions like, how many hours of teaching do you have? Do you log by now? Okay. How many hours of training? Ask them, interview them. What was the last course that you have taken, or the last conference? Who do you see as your mentor? Who do you practice with, and who do you look up to? The yoga teachers that you're choosing are, and if you interview them, they will take it as you are a serious student and you really want to be investing time and money in yourself. And just because it's cheap doesn't mean that is good quality. Just because it's expensive doesn't mean that it's good quality.
Yes, that's
so
true.
what is good quality is, what do you want to do with it, and who do you want to learn it from, and is there the tradition? What's the lineage? I asked recently somebody, oh, you took a yoga teacher training. What lineage? Cricket. I didn't hear back from that person. Okay, so you need to know where's the wisdom coming from, and where's the science coming from, right? And how do they blend?
Yeah, I don't know. Can I just interject? I'm not sure if the tradition should be a deciding factor. I mean, tradition is important, but now we've seen all these sexual scandals in nearly all of the traditions, or some scandal. I think a lot of people have pulled away from traditions or naming according to, do you know what I mean? So I think it should still be the quality of the teacher, and also hearing from other people how good a teacher has been, as someone who's been to that teacher, word of mouth.
I have education from traditions that have been tainted by some sexual misconduct, for instance. However, if you separate that person
from the teachings, Yes.
And from the people that are still continuing some of that education, you just like can't mesh a person totally with a tradition because they
I
are not
agree.
a
I agree.
tradition.
I
Okay,
agree.
so
I don't. I'm not saying there's a problem with the traditions, but I think a lot of people see there is a problem with the traditions because of this. You know, it has been tainted now.
And I'm going again, ask the questions, ask the hard questions, ask all the questions that you have.
Yeah, which
Okay.
are, but
And
let's just, can we just name the questions quickly, one by one, so that, because otherwise, if we have all these big
okay.
in between, so just a few that people can.
What style of yoga is the school teaching?
Mhm.
Who is the main teacher or the main teachers? What are their qualifications and their experience
Yeah.
with yoga? And here's the deal, I'm going to add here, do not ask how many years have you been teaching, because that is tricky. That can be, yes, I taught once a week for 10 years, and I can say I taught 10 years yoga, and that's impressive in your eyes. But I'm not saying I taught one class a week and I took 2 leaves of absence and I actually didn't teach that much. I'm saying I taught 10 years, right? But if I'm telling you I taught over 12,000 of documented hours of yoga related activities, and and that is different. Okay, now you have a number and ask for that number, and the higher that number, the more likely that that person has done their work to teach you where they have been, because that's what you will be taught. You can teach people where you have been and what you have experienced, not from the books, from your personal experience. Yes, books are good too, but the personal experience is what gives the yoga teacher trainings a lot of substance, okay? And then how many hours of training? Who is your mentor? What was the last course that you have taken?
Okay, so yeah.
Don't be afraid to ask those questions. I usually counsel people and I usually meet one-on-one on Zoom or in person. Here's the studio, here's what you would be teaching, or you would be joining online, and this is how would we do this? And here is who I am, and here's like I'm an open book for you. And what do you want from this? And I'm actually saying to some people, I don't think I'm the right course for you. I think that I can refer you to somebody else. Or if you have doubts, because I had somebody, it's like, I don't know if I should do this or I take the massage school. It's like, here is the deal. I met with you today. Go home and sit in meditation and figure out what exactly is your heart. Where's your heart taking you? And if that's massage, go for it. And if that's yoga, go for it.
Yeah, this I wanted to say, because as you were talking and you're showing it now, is the teacher being authentic. They're not looking for you to pay the money. They really just want you to do the best course that you can do. And that's so important, what you just said. It's about the person themselves. And if this person just wants you to do the course, how authentic are they in wanting you to take their course, you know? And another thing I think is important, you should feel comfortable to ask this teacher all these questions. If you feel discomfort, if you feel there is a power dynamic that makes them authoritative and therefore you are not confident enough to ask these questions, that's a good sign that this is not an authentic teacher.
Sometimes these courses have like frequently asked questions page. It's almost like buying a purse or buying a car. You're buying yourself yoga education that way. For me, that is sad, because to quote my teacher and my mentor Judith, saying that healing happens when an authentic connection with an authentic human being is established. How do you get that if you're not going through this? I call this like meet and greet process. And some people are signing up because of that we connect and they see themselves studying like this. And some people are not. And I wish them well. And I hope that they are choosing the right education and person for themselves, because if you want to have like a great education, you have to draw from a long line of people that have put a lot of education in their practice and in their teaching. Otherwise, it's just like, as I said, you can get a teacher that has 1,000 hours experience, and you can get a teacher that has over 10,000 hours experience. I don't know about you. I would go to teach with a person that has more experience, with a person that has been teaching maybe full time, with a person that maybe has been teaching more than once a week. Ideally, if I'm looking right now for my graduates to take over some of the programs, I'm looking for somebody that has taken all my courses and that have been consistently coming back for mentoring, and that's teaching a minimum of 2 or 3 classes a week, and has been participating as a practice teaching advisor for students or a mentoring buddy for the students. Okay.
Wow. I don't think there's many like you out there, because this sounds like how my teacher was, and it sounds so good, sounds so like home. Yeah, but I wonder how many trainings are this kind of quality and this depth and also consistency in growth opportunities. Sounds like.
And I would like to see this in yoga and in yoga therapy, because, it's so easy to read the frequently asked questions and to swipe your card and to pay maybe a little bit or pay a little bit more. And then, I don't know, not even knowing when you're standing, when you finish the course. And I also met people that, in my opinion, somebody that embarks in a yoga therapy course would need a good solid couple of years of practice after their 200-hour yoga teacher training. They would need to be having a number of classes that they taught, so that they have experience in working with
different
students and body parts, positions, pranayama, knowing how to use props.
States.
Yes. And in my opinion, things like yoga nidra and restorative yoga would need to be part of those programs, because, how many of us are yoga therapists are relying on those tools, meditation, yoga nidra, and restorative yoga, for resetting the nervous system of the student, so the student can, process what they need to process on their way towards health and wellness. So those are my things, like whether you take a course online or you take a course in person, ask those questions and ask yourself, what are my reasons for getting into this? Do I want to have a better practice? Do I think that at some point I would like to teach to my friends or family, or even make a living out of this? Do I want to embark on a yoga therapy? For what reasons? And what is my background? Because I can only give someone what I have in my toolbox. And if in my toolbox is not that much, why am I not giving myself the time to study, to practice, and to put the tools in the toolbox so I can better serve myself and serve others that way? Because if I'm not in a place that I can self-regulate, then how can I be a co-regulator for somebody else? Right? And what do I do when I cannot show up to co-regulate with another human? So I do know that everybody has a business and they have to make money. But at what point do the yamas and niyamas meet with a business? I teach my student. I'm probably one of the people that teaches philosophy and business of yoga in the same module. And how do we apply the yogic philosophy in the business model? And we stay ethical. And how much do we charge? And how do we put ourselves out there in an ethical way, not in the very, very commercial I like to call this the drive-through of yoga. So you're driving through and you get a certificate at the end of that drive-through, and the fast food and the drive-through of yoga.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, I would like to say that I'm not frustrated or irritated or angry. I am just concerned with the well-being of the humans that are trusting somebody that hasn't done their own work to get there, or doesn't even know
What that
is
work is.
lane, what
Yeah.
is their lane to stay in
Mm.
and refer out. And a lot of people are trying to do crowdsourcing for teaching everything from postpartum to mental health related issues. Okay. So that is concerning for me. I read this week on a yoga teacher forum that my cardiologist doesn't want me to practice yoga, not even restorative yoga. Now, where's that coming from? Well, I practice restorative yoga, for instance, that I was given. I was so excited to sign up to this restorative yoga class with live music, and I was given the whole a block, a bolster, and one blanket. That's really very, very minimum for restorative yoga. And I was expecting the chanting or the crystal balls or the some sort of yogic music. No, it was actually somebody playing the guitar and playing the latest hit on the radio. Okay. So I called that being in a concert and lying down on a bolster kind of thing. That for me was as far as you can get from what restorative yoga is. And I could understand why a cardiologist that had some of those experiences would not want their patient
Yes.
being in something like that.
Yes.
Right? My experience with restorative yoga is way different. Is dark, quiet, cold, and warm. Those are the principles that we embody, and we actually put the body in a full support, and it can get like so good. But again, if somebody was exposed to that type of restorative yoga, or they took the $200 yoga teacher training and they have a whole lot of 2 hours of restorative yoga, that does not give one the certification and the knowledge to teach restorative yoga. If you have been taught in your 200-hour things, it's just for educational purposes. It's not for you to go on that lane.
Yeah.
Go on that lane after you have some sort of education. And education for me is education that gives you feedback, that gives you a project or case studies to work with, or a teaching moment for the teacher to give you some feedback. Okay, so if you choose only courses that are online, and at the end of that online is like a short quiz, and then you got your certificate, maybe some of that course is your interpretation of how that should be taught. Okay, find a mentor, find somebody to work with you so you can make the world a better place.
Oh, thank you, Alina. This has been very insightful, even for me, also reflecting on what you're saying. Yeah, wonderful.
Okay, so I think that's a good moment for us to hopefully inspire people to put a lot of work in researching when they choose their education, their mentors, their teachers, so they can have a fulfilled career or a fulfilled practice, and they can understand how deep inside you can go and how much healing can result from this practices.
Exactly. And when you choose the right course with a good teacher or a bunch of teachers, it is so inspiring. It's very hard work and it's very confronting and it's sometimes very uncomfortable, but that's how you grow. That is a real teaching. That is a real practice. And then you have this deep experience and much more confidence because you've been true to yourself. You've been true to yoga.
I once said, I think I once said in a post that choosing a mentor is such a deep, intimate process. It's to get so close as choosing a life partner of a spouse. It's like
Because
the
you take it
same
with you
kind of decision
your life.
making as choosing a life partner, because that mentor can be there for you at any time. And while you may outgrow your mentor, that's great. You can find another mentor, and a good mentor would not take offense on that. So like, fantastic, you're a great student. You just through me. Here's where you go next. Okay.
Keep growing.
So that's what I'm saying. Put the same effort as in choosing a life partner, or choosing a spouse, when you choose somebody to touch your life so deeply.
Yeah.
So when I had a mentor during my Yoga Nidra certification, the first question that my mentor asked me, so tell me, what is your heartfelt desire? And I was like, do we know each other that well to share my deepest desires are in my heart right now? And that was a joke. Okay. So we were very funny. And your mentor also needs to be very funny and not take yourself too seriously, because the joy is what feeds a good mentorship relationship, and the ability to laugh at yourself and not take yourself too seriously. That's not to say not take the yoga therapy or yoga seriously. It's not taking yourself too seriously on the process, and enjoying every moment. When you enjoy those moments, you will grow leaps and bounds.
Yeah. And I think one thing we didn't even mention is the visceral feeling you have when you're with this mentor. How do you feel with them inside your body? And that's enough. Your body knows intuitively if this is going to work or not. Yeah. Thank you, Alina. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Namaste.
Namaste.
So thank you, everyone, for staying to the end of the podcast. I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. I really love doing these talks with these amazing people. And if you want to know more, just take a look in the show notes. There's plenty of links and ways to connect with either the guest or myself. If you want to work with us or find out more about us, just check out the information in the show notes. So I hope you have a wonderful weekend or week, and you'll be hearing from me next week. Bye.